Episode 57 DDB February 11th, 2025 Most countries to miss vital climate deadline as Cop30 nears. In Episode 57 DDB 1 Introduction RAWSEP View 2 World Climate Crisis Backsliding Most countries to miss vital climate deadline as Cop30 nears 3 World constantly scrolling on your phone? For world opinion U.S. foreign policy Trump is remaking the world, but he really will not like the result. 5 World and United Kingdom UK steel industry fears devastating blow from Trump tariffs. 6 United States Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I am picturing my death alarm as RFK Jr. closes in on health secretary role. The Trump ally health plans have delighted his supporters, but others are horrified by the potential for harm. 7 United States The Musk gutting of U.S. agencies is illegal. Experts say how do you muzzle Doge? 8 United States The journey of Musk from climate champion to backing EV bashing Trump. 9 United States Trump administration suspends $5 billion electric vehicle charging program. 10 United States revealed how a shadowy group of far-right donors is funding federal employee watch lists. 11 United States Trump administration profile of Russell, Vought the Trump Office of Management and Budget head who wants federal workers to be in trauma. 12 United States opinion Trump is not a narcissist, he is a solipsist, and it means a few simple things. The president delights in being attacked since it keeps the focus on him. The press should handle him like parents with an ornery child. 13 United States Trump tells Treasury to end wasteful production of pennies. 14 Maryland Baltimore Far right U.S. bomb plot trial of neo-Nazi leader pulls back veil on U.S. extremist networks. Brandon Russell 29 found guilty of plan to blow up power grid in Baltimore as jury rejects claims of FBI entrapment. 15 Canada a screen grab from an RCMP video shows people crossing the Manitoba border into Canada. 16 Israel the Trump proposed land grabs mean U.S. now seen as a risk, says Munich security report. The report published before an international summit suggests the U.S. is moving away from a global leadership role. 17 Ukraine Trump says he has spoken with Putin about ending Ukraine war. Trump tells the New York Post that he has a plan to end the war but declined to go into details. 18 Ukraine war live Russian deputy foreign minister says talks must recognize reality on the ground. 19 Ukraine the teen soldiers of Ukraine, the cadets who hold the future of Ukraine in their hands. Cadets break for lunch at the Ivan Bohun Military High School where they are served 4 meals a day. The recruits spend 2 years studying academic topics as well as learning how to fight, all under the threat of Russian airstrikes. 20 Sri Lanka Total chaos monkey blamed for nationwide power cut in Sri Lanka Energy, minister says monkey came into contact with grid transformer causing hours-long outage in sweltering heat. RAWSEP View Musk could be regarded as a useful monkey able to sow Trump chaos affecting the American people. Main content 1 Introduction RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM25 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating. Should continue presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM25. And PM25 is not absorbed by trees, so PM25 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM25 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM25 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM25 particulate matter of 25 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 28 times the PM25 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM25 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM25 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove and international convention based on the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Burning wood instead of coal increases the adverse health effects of PM25 air pollution and hastens climate change. Stopping burning wood for residential home heating is an easy incremental way to be kind to your neighbor and to the planet. Choosing to burn wood when burning wood when it is more expensive than heating your home with a heat pump that is less expensive when you use the United States heat pump rebates available in 2025 in many states is like choosing a gas-powered car above an electric car when both are of equal price. Many of the Trump tariffs will result in less manufacture of clean electric vehicles in the United States and less price reduction to customers on existing electric vehicles. RAWSEP View. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, this article in a wood burning industry magazine admits that wood burning is a substantial source of PM25 emissions, yet this article, since it is in a magazine that is an arm of the wood burning industry, states that this wood burning should continue presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to Oxygen and so sequesters some carbon will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM25, and PM25 is not absorbed by trees, so PM25 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut down and burned tree. Wood burning emits 90% PM25 particulate matter of 25 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 28 times the PM25 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM25 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning, replacing coal burning. With wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM25 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View purple air PM25 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM25 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners if PM25 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually. Then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time, if necessary. 2. World climate crisis backsliding most countries to miss vital climate deadline as Cop30 nears. Developing countries urge biggest polluters to act as the Trump return to the White House heightens geopolitical turmoil. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Saturday, February 8, 2025. Despite the urgency of the crisis, the UN is relatively relaxed at the prospect of the missed date. With the Trump return, there will inevitably be voices, even in China, pushing back against clean energy or arguing against faster decarbonization. But China has made major investments in clean energy, and its economy is no longer driven solely by coal interests. India, the 5th largest economy in the world and 3rd biggest emitter of greenhouse gases, will be closely watched. It was likely India would frame its targets in terms of emissions intensity rather than absolute cuts to carbon, that is, reducing the amount of carbon per unit of gross domestic product (GDP). For most of the last 20 years, the EU has led the world on climate ambition. This year, however, with a populist backlash across the continent threatening the environmental consensus, the 2 biggest champions, France and Germany, are in political crisis, and several other governments have taken a right-wing and anti-climate turn. The EU bloc is not expected to reach agreement on its NDC until this summer. The Japan Prospective Nationally Determined Contribution to Greenhouse Gas Emissions (NDC) has been criticized by campaigners as too weak, but it has not yet been submitted. Canada is facing elections after the resignation of Justin Trudeau, and Australia is also gearing up for political fights over climate. In the long run-up to its election, there is little hope of strong NDCs from 2 of the biggest climate influencers among the G20, Russia and Saudi Arabia. Neither country is likely to commit to significant cuts, although both are signed up to a net zero target. NDCs are detailed documents going far beyond the headline emissions targets. Experts also want them to address the global imperative to transition away from fossil fuels. Agreed at COP28, all countries are supposed to be tripling their renewable energy generation and doubling energy efficiency, but so far those targets are being missed. 3. World constantly scrolling on your phone. Why we cannot stand feeling bored. In one study, nearly half of participants left alone for 15 minutes with no stimulation chose to have an electric shock. RAWSEP View. The conflict on Trump online sites probably prevents MAGA boredom when online scrolling. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Friday, February 7, 2025. Nearly half of participants sitting alone in a room for 15 minutes with no stimulation other than a button that would administer a mild electric shock. Press the button. There is a popular truism often trotted out by adults to scold aimless children that only boring people get bored. This is not true, say boredom experts, many of whom are very interesting. For world opinion. U.S. foreign policy. Trump is remaking the world, but he really will not like the result as an erratic president imposes his international doctrine. Countries are forging more stable alliances. His U.S. will be weaker, not stronger. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10, 2025. One of the ways in which the Trump regime obscures and distracts is by drawing our eyes constantly to the U.S., its raw power to intimidate and bully other nations, and its vast financial heft in wielding soft power through organizations such as USAID. American taxpayer money is ever so precious on the one hand, but on the other can be profligately spent on proposals to take over an entire territory in Gaza and send billions in aid to Israel. Trump could, by withdrawing in parts and aggressively asserting in others, create at once both a vacuum and a provocation. 5. World and United Kingdom. UK steel industry fears devastating blow from Trump tariffs. Brussels vows to react. US President says 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium imports to be introduced this week as Chinese tariffs come into effect. RAWSEP View. Countries around the world are jockeying to be termed exceptions to the Trump tariffs. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10, 2025. After latest Trump tariff move, Australia working on exemption from U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs. French Foreign Minister Vought, we will respond. South Korea holds emergency meeting on steel. A UK official says it would be deeply disappointing Trump decides to target UK steel given its relatively small production volumes compared to major steel nations. The UK produces world-leading steel, supplying the US with high-quality products for defense, aerospace, stainless, and other critical sectors, materials that simply cannot be replicated elsewhere. The danger is that other nations decide to dump steel on the UK market to avoid US tariffs. At the same time, the introduction of further US tariffs will inevitably divert global trade flows, with excess steel potentially redirected to the UK market. This reinforces the urgent need for watertight UK trade measures in 2026 to prevent surges in imports following the UK steel safeguards expiration. Accelerating the UK CBM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, to 2026 would provide an additional layer of protection against unfairly priced steel. The UK government must act decisively to shield our domestic industry from the fallout of rising Global protectionism. We do not yet know if the UK will be subject to the 25% tariff on steel which Trump announced last night, or if exemptions will be available. British ministers said today they must wait and see what the US does. 6 United States Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I am picturing my death alarm as RFK Jr. closes in on health secretary role. The Trump ally health plans have delighted his supporters, but others are horrified by the potential for harm. RAWSEP top excerpt of opinions of 2 women who are delighted by Kennedy Jr. We are looking to pills and prescriptions programs and physicians for good health, when good health can be found through ancestral health ways. A woman spoke from her homestead refuge of Liberty, a mother of 3, expecting a 4th. She lives in rural Virginia, homeschools her children, and runs Homesteaders of America. Most of our family has not seen a doctor in over a decade because we just do not have to. We are healthy people. To her, the most concerning thing about the confirmation hearing was Kennedy distancing himself from anti-vaccine views. The libertarian Christian moms are concerned about hearing Robert F. Kennedy say, well, if the science shows that vaccines are safe, then we should be fine with it. Just because the science says it is okay, I still want the option to say no to it. We do not believe vaccines are the design for our life of God. Kennedy is supported among naturopath, the supplement industry, homesteaders, and the Christian Back to the Land movement, many of whom distrust vaccines as well as modern medicine. Another woman is executive director of the Organic and Natural Health Association, a trade group for the nutraceuticals and supplement industry. The group endorsed Kennedy in late January. The women illustrate a new mix of wellness and conservatism, including some people who have adopted the alternative lifestyles once associated with the left, politically support the right, and advocate for a mix of the unobjectionable and potentially harmful. It used to be seen as the whole hippie left-leaning movement from the 60s, which is funny because homesteading does not have anything to do with politics until it does. We are on the fringe on this and endorsing Kennedy. Some favored causes are resistant to evidence of harm, such as unregulated supplements, raw milk, and vaccine refusal, like a growing minority of Republicans, about 20% according to Gallup. One woman now believes vaccines are more dangerous than the diseases they are designed to prevent. They are more dangerous, she said, acknowledging this is a spicy perspective because the overwhelming majority of Americans still support childhood vaccinations. Her theory is that vaccines go directly into your bloodstream and giving it an easy path to bypass the defenses of the body. She then espoused what many researchers regard as a misunderstanding of the danger of measles, a disease rarely encountered now by Americans. Some diseases like measles, they are kind of natural rites of passage, I would say, for children to develop naturally. It is like a hurdle, and when they do, they are stronger afterward, she says. RAWSEP top excerpt from one woman who is delighted by Kennedy Jr. but still would allow herself to be vaccinated in an emergency. My perspective is, and I happen to be a Christian in the South, it is my duty to get vaccinated because I should be helping those who cannot help themselves, those with compromised immune systems, or who do not have the resources to get vaccinated, said a woman who is a fellow at the Baker Institute for Public Policy at Rice University in Houston, Texas. Her recent report documented bills to limit vaccine access supported by state Republicans. You cannot be a good Christian and then want to skip out on all vaccines for no reason. If you have as medical reason, I completely support it. RAWSEP top excerpt of the opinion of one woman who is not delighted by Kennedy Jr. A woman who is a 57-year-old AIDS patient and activist from Youngstown, Ohio, also attended the Kennedy hearing. She uses a wheelchair and has lived with HIV for 25 years. Like most people, she has spent little time dwelling on her own demise that changed last week after she attended the Kennedy confirmation hearing. She fears the Kennedy Jr. history of HIV denialism and suggestions of cutting Medicaid, the public health insurance program for the low income that she and 79 million other Americans rely on. Without it, her prescriptions would cost roughly $7,000 per month. She called her husband after the hearing and said, Sam, I am going to die, not because I am not taking my meds, but because I am not going to have access to them. I am picturing my death. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Sunday, February 9, 2025. Americans suspicious of modern medicine and the status quo are watching the Kennedy Jr. nomination too. Secretary of Health and Human Services HHS with a mixture of glee, astonishment, and skepticism. Last week, Kennedy used his confirmation hearing before the Senate Finance Committee to demonstrate how fully his wellness agenda, make America healthy again, and Trumpism had fused, often to the delight of supporters. Measles was declared eliminated from the U.S. in 2000, but has since made a resurgence amid vaccine hesitancy. Today, the CDC estimates measles kills between 1-2 people per 1,000 sickened, though mortality varies by country. That is higher than historical rates, which are generally considered an underestimation. By contrast, the World Health Organization WHO estimates the risk of adverse reaction from the measles vaccine at about 1 in a million. It is widely accepted that measles vaccines have saved millions of lives globally, according to a large systematic review. The measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine MMR is not associated with brain swelling, autism spectrum disorders, cognitive delay, type 1 diabetes, asthma, dermatitis/eczema, hay fever, leukemia, multiple sclerosis, gait disturbance, and bacterial or viral infections. Notably, many of the Kennedy supporters are not fazed by conflicts and suggestions that left Democrats aghast on his suggestions that he might cut Medicaid. Labrador said, I do not know many people on Medicaid, so I do not really have a reference point. If Kennedy is confirmed to lead HHS, an agency with an $18 trillion budget and to remit across health insurance, biomedical research, and the investigation and containment of infectious disease outbreaks, it would take place in spite of fevered opposition. Public health researchers, clinicians, and even the cousins of Kennedy Jr. have worked to stop the nomination. Their sentiments are summed up by a statement by one consumer advocate and public citizen co-president. There is not one senator who believes Robert F. Kennedy is qualified to be Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, and no senator should vote for his confirmation. The confirmation may also come amid the noted silence of the American Medical Association and PHRMA in 2024. Pharmaceutical companies and their trade groups spent $293 million lobbying Congress, more than any industry by a long shot. Few Republican doubters remain those that do, such as polio survivor and Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell. May not do enough to stop the Kennedy confirmation. 7 United States The Musk gutting of U.S. agencies is illegal. Experts say, how do you muzzle Doge? The richest man in the world has unleashed a flurry moves ranging from compromising private data of Americans to nearly appending USAID. Where does it stop? RAWSEP top excerpt on expected limited control of Musk actions. Lawsuits are not a deterrent for the richest man in the world. Why would he stop mass layoffs or slashing and burning operations when it has worked out so well for him at X that he is now infirm firm control of the administrative state of America. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 8, 2025. Musk is a notorious recipient of lucrative government contracts and changes with the winds of presidential administrations now in 2025 as a special government employee heading up the Department of Government Efficiency. Doge Musk, slashing whatever he sees as a waste of public coffers, but legal resistance is mounting as Doge faces countless lawsuits alleging everything from privacy concerns to free speech violations, which all leads to one important question: is any of this even legal? Much of the Trump blitzkrieg of executive orders on the day of his inauguration disregards the U.S. Constitution. Trump hints Musk Doge team has free reign with Pentagon next in line for cuts. As for the Musk status as a federal contractor, such as his Starlink work with the Pentagon, and now a government employee, a legal analyst sees it as absolutely a legal conflict of interest. On Wednesday, Senator Bernie Sanders told CNN what Musk is doing is illegal and unconstitutional, but with a Republican Supreme Court supermajority that almost always sides with the Trump administration. Any of these lawsuits that do end up being tested in the highest U.S. court risks rulings in favor of Musk and Doge. Many of these Doge-related lawsuits will go on for months and be heard by benches stacked with Trump appointees from his first presidency. Doge, nonetheless, will continue to be sued. So far, Musk has reportedly employed a team of very young programmers who brazenly took control of the Treasury Department payment system, which gave them access to the addresses, social security numbers, and bank account information of Americans. That act alone raises serious issues of privacy. Doge is indeed already facing legal action for that Treasury fiasco, with a judge approving a temporary hold on Doge from fully accessing the payment system, while another judge ordered a freeze on the deadline for federal workers to accept a buyout, even if Doge is found to be violating labor laws, national security statutes, or constitutional rights. Cases will be gummed up in the legal process, which could allow enough time for some of these federal workers to relent and take buyouts. 8. United States: the journey of Musk from climate champion to backing EV bashing. Trump. Musk believes Tesla rivals are more vulnerable to the Trump moves against electric vehicles. RAWSEP top excerpt about expected limited effect of EV bashing on Musk. Take away the subsidies Musk wrote on X, another of his companies, in July. It will only help Tesla. There is some logic to this. Tesla is comfortably the largest EV brand in the US, accounting for nearly half of all sales, and makes more profit per car than its rivals, meaning the removal of incentives would be disproportionately felt by other manufacturers. However, Tesla will still be affected. Weakening federal pollution rules could see a reduction in the amount of carbon credits Tesla sells to other car companies, amounting to $27 billion just last year to offset their emissions and avoid fines. Tesla sales dipped slightly for the first time in 2024 amid concern among some of its traditionally liberal customer base about the Musk rightward political turn. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Friday, February 7, 2025. Trump attempts to slash incentives for electric cars would cause sales of the vehicles to plummet, with this effort cheered on by supporter Musk. The billionaire chief executive of Tesla and erstwhile champion for action on the climate crisis, Trump, has said that he will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. Trump previously suggested supporters of EVs rot in hell and has already ditched an aspirational goal for half of all car sales to be electric by the end of the decade, halted some funding for EV chargers, and began reversing vehicle pollution standards that prod auto companies to shift away from gasoline models. A key tax credit for Americans buying an EV worth up to $7,500 is also a major target for elimination, although to overturn this, Trump will require Republicans in Congress. Should Trump succeed, the impact would be significant, with a recent study finding that electric car sales could fall by 27% without the incentive. Those who know Musk say that he soured on Democrats in part after not being invited to a major summit on electric cars held by the White House in 2021 after Joe Biden became president. 9. United States: Trump administration suspends $5 billion electric vehicle charging program. Highway agency ordered states to no longer spend funds allocated under the Biden EV charging station program. RAWSEP top excerpt: a former deputy FHWA administrator under the Biden administration said that the memo appears to ignore both the law and multiple restraining orders that have been issued by federal courts. The outlet further reports Rogers saying that the memo appears to be in direct violation of the Impoundment Control Act of 1974, a law that restricts presidents from withholding congressionally approved funding. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Guardian, Friday, February 7, 2025. The Trump administration has ordered U.S. states to suspend a $5 bill in electric vehicle charging station program in a further blow to the environmental movement. Since the Trump return to the White House, the Federal Highway Administration (FHWA) of the Transportation Department ordered states not to spend any funds allocated to them under the Biden administration as part of the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure (NEVI) program. After review, the current NEVI formula program guidance dated June 11, 2024, and all prior versions of this guidance are rescinded as a result of the rescission of the NEVI formula program guidance. FHWA is also immediately suspending the approval of all state electric vehicle infrastructure deployment plans for all fiscal years, therefore effective immediately. No new obligations may occur under the NEVI formula program until the updated final NEVI formula program guidance is issued and new state plans are submitted and approved, according to an existing page on the website of the Energy Department. The NEVI program provides funding to states to strategically deploy EV chargers. Funding is available for up to 80% of eligible project costs, including the acquisition, installation, and network connection of EV chargers, proper operation and maintenance of EV chargers, and long-term EV charger data sharing. As of Thursday, the FHWA removed several website pages that provided information on the NEVI program. Currently, 14 states have at least one operational EV station, according to EV States Clearinghouse. As of last November, there are 126 public charging ports in operation across 31 Nevi stations in 9 states, marking an 83% increase in open Nevi ports since last quarter. According to a Nevi report, 10 United States revealed how a shadowy group of far-right donors is funding federal employee watchlist project. 2025 architects are among those behind the American Accountability Foundation and their blacklists targeting people of color. RAWSEP top excerpt. Recent attacks by the Trump administration on public employees shows that the mega/project 2025 movement will go as far as possible to make life miserable for public servants. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Sunday, February 9, 2025. A right-wing nonprofit group that has published a DI watch list identifying federal employees allegedly driving radical diversity, equity, and inclusion DI initiatives is bankrolled by wealthy family foundations and right-wing groups whose origins are often cloaked in a web of financial arrangements that obscure the original donors. The dozens of public employees whose information was collected in dossiers of 44 profiles listed under agencies, many on the list, are people of color. 11 United States Trump administration profile of Russell Vought, the Trump Office of Management and Budget head, who wants federal workers to be in trauma. The Christian nationalist expressed that the government should be brought to heel by a powerful executive branch. RAWSEP top excerpt. Russell Vought is an extremist who will betray working families, will betray your family, and there is simply no other way to put it, said Nevada Senator Jackie Rosen Thursday morning. He was the main architect behind Project 2025. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10, 2025. If federal employees are feeling traumatized right now, Russell Vought, the new head of the Office of Management and Budget OMB, probably has something to do with it. We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected, Vought said in a video revealed by ProPublica and the research group documented in October. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma. The words off. Vought delivered at an event hosted by his think tank center. Renewing America were striking, but if the Trump campaign sought to distance themselves from the unpopular Heritage Foundation policy proposal named Project 2025, that separation was a campaign season mirage, God be praised, wrote Vought on Twitter/X after he was confirmed by a narrow party line vote of the Senate on Thursday evening. Grateful to the President and the U.S. Senate, incredibly thankful for all the many who prayed me through. Now, let us go. 12 United States opinion. Trump is not a narcissist, he is a solipsist, and it means a few simple things. The president delights in being attacked since it keeps the focus on him. The press should handle him like parents with an ornery child. Wikipedia definition of solipsist. Solipsism from Latin solus means alone, and ipsi means self. Solipsism is the philosophical idea that the onlyest thing sure to exist, your mind. Solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside your own mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist outside the mind. RAWSEP top excerpt about Trump. The solipsist. For Trump, the solipsist, the only point of reference is himself, so he makes no attempt even at faking interest in other people since he cannot really see them from his self-centered position. The Trump absence of external connection is self-evident. His treatment of the other, from his own family to his tenants, his political rivals, or the victims of the Los Angeles fires, displays not only a lack of empathy but also an emotional blindness. After stating absurdly that houses had burned tragically in Los Angeles without even a token of defense, the president seemed to turn philosophical and then appeared to ad-lib some of the wealthiest and most powerful individuals in our country. They do not have a home any longer. That is interesting. I suppose it is better than his reaction to a 2018 fire in Trump Tower that killed a resident. Todd Brassner. The Trump tweeted response: fire at Trump Tower is out. Very confined, well-built building. Firemen and women did a great job. Thank you. No condolences for the dead man or his family. That is also interesting. He is the president after all, not just a cold-hearted landlord. RAWSEP excerpt of a prediction that backlash against Trump failures on the economy will be felt more by liberals than by Trump himself. It is a fair bet that Trump the solipsist does not care if his policies fail to help the ordinary people who voted for him, and we anti-Trumpers should fear the rage of his supporters if they conclude that they have been duped by their hero. The backlash is more likely to be felt by liberals than by Trump, who will retreat safely to Mar-a-Lago and resume cheating at golf. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Saturday, February 8, 2025. 2 weeks into the Trump administration, I am still being asked by foreigners about the new Trump political vision. Some of them, especially the French and the British, might be excused for excessive politeness toward a country that in many respects they still envy and admire, but on most of the news programs and podcasts to which I have been invited, I am still encountering earnest interviewers struggling to understand Trump from a conventional political perspective, no matter how contradictory, irrational, or stupid his statements and actions may be. His firing of 17 inspectors general and temporary halt of all federal financial assistance are certainly causes for concern and possibly alarm. So also are his threats to slap high tariffs on Canada and Mexico, friendly nations. Trump delights in being attacked because it keeps him at center stage. Humor, sarcasm, and ridicule can be useful tools, though, as we learned from the famous roast by Obama of Trump in 2011. They can also motivate the target to run for president. One cannot just ignore the Trump blathering, but like parents dealing with an ornery child, editors, reporters, and columnists need to temper reprimands and raise voices with self-restraint, calmness, and even studied indifference. Covering Trump like bringing up children is an art, not a science. 13 United States Trump tells Treasury to end wasteful production of pennies. President says minting of low denomination 1-cent coins costs more than their face value. Echoing Musk. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Mon, February 10, 2025. While Trump did not mention the elimination of the penny in his campaign, the Musk, a controversial Department of Government efficiency Doge, called attention to the cost of making the coin in a post to X. In January, the U.S. Mint produced approximately 32 billion pennies in 2024, the most of any other coin, at a loss of $853 million. Pennies cost about 307 cents to produce, an increase from 301 cents in 2023, but most pennies in circulation are never spent, triggering the U.S. Mint to create more. Canada stopped producing its 1-cent coins, also known as pennies, in 2012 due to production costs. Ireland, the Netherlands, Brazil, and others also stopped producing or circulating 1-cent coins. 14 Maryland Baltimore Far, right U.S. bomb plot trial of neo-Nazi leader pulls back veil. On U.S. extremist networks, Brandon Russell, 29, found guilty of plan to blow up power grid in Baltimore as jury rejects. Claims of FBI entrapment excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10th. 2025 February was to be the Brandon Russell moment of facing federal charges of conspiring to blow up a series of power stations around Baltimore and trigger a citywide blackout. The neo-Nazi figurehead decided to take his case to trial and mount an entrapment defense against the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It did not work. Russell, a 29-year-old native of the Bahamas, had thrown away a promising future involving a college degree at the University of Florida and a National Guard position to become a dedicated far-right figurehead. Previously imprisoned in 2017 over a murderous spat between comrades in the Atomwaffen Division, a neo-Nazi guerrilla group he had founded that was involved in 5 murders and a number of bomb plots before federal agents dismantled it in 2020. Instead of seeing the FBI as baiting Russell into a violent plot, a jury of 12 Marylanders last week took less than an hour to hand down a guilty verdict that could land Russell back in federal prison for 20 years. His trial pulled back the veil on the Biden administration assault on violent right-wing extremists that will almost certainly end with the current regime, the role of a controversial private intelligence firm in the FBI investigation, and the depth of the Russell involvement with the Telegram collective propaganda network. 15 Canada, a screen grab from an RCMP video shows people crossing the Manitoba border into Canada. The country of Canada intercepts people trying to cross border in incredibly cold conditions. 9 Venezuelans, including children, found by police in Alberta, with a second group apprehended in Manitoba. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Friday, February 7th, 2025. More than a dozen people have been caught making the hazardous crossing into Canada. Renewing focus on the closely watched and seasonally perilous border, with the United States Police in Alberta this week intercepted 2 groups attempting to cross into Canada illegally, including one which included 5 children who were ill-prepared for the cold, which can plunge as low as 30 C22F at this time of year. Assistant Commissioner told reporters in Edmonton that 9 people from Venezuela were found trudging through the snow and dragging suitcases. The group was bound for Alberta and made the journey in incredibly cold weather. A second group, composed of 6 adults from Jordan, Sudan, Chad, and Mauritius, was found in a forest near the Manitoba border with the U.S. after an RCMP plane using thermal cameras detected them. Under the current rule, a person can make an asylum claim if they remain undetected in Canada for 14 days, incentivizing risky and possibly deadly crossings. 16 Israel. The Trump proposed land grabs mean U.S. now seen as a risk, says Munich security report. The report, published before an international summit, suggests the U.S. is moving away from a global leadership role. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10th, 2025. The Trump proposed land grabs mean the U.S. is no longer perceived as an anchor of stability, but rather a risk to be hedged against, the organizers of the Munich Security Conference have said in their pre-summit report. The report, which takes as its theme the shift from a U.S.-led unipolar post-Cold War era towards a multipolar world in which no single ideological outlook dominates, will form the backdrop to this 2025 conference. 17 Ukraine. Trump says he has spoken with Putin about ending Ukraine war. Trump tells the New York Post that he has a plan to end the war but declined to go into details. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Sunday, February 9th, 2025. Trump has said he held talks with the Russian President Vladimir Putin over a negotiated end of the 3-year Russia-Ukraine war and indicated that Russian negotiators want to meet with U.S. counterparts. Trump told the New York Post that he had spoken to Putin, remarking that I better not say just how many times. In comments to the outlet on Friday aboard Air Force One, Trump said he believed Putin does care about the killing on the battlefield, but did not say if the Russian leader had presented any concrete commitments to end the nearly 3-year conflict. Trump revealed that he has a plan to end the war but declined to go into details. 18 Ukraine war live. Russian deputy foreign minister says talks must recognize reality on the ground. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10th, 2025. Moscow says all of the Putin conditions must be met if there is to be peace deal on Ukraine. 19 Ukraine. The teen soldiers of Ukraine, the cadets who hold the future of Ukraine in their hands. Cadets break for lunch at the Ivan Bohun Military High School, where they are served 4 meals a day. The recruits spend 2 years studying academic topics as well as learning how to fight all under the threat of Russian airstrikes. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents. Against would smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, Monday, February 10th, 2025. At a boarding school in Kiev, cadets are training to become the youngest soldiers in Ukraine and help defend their country against the Russian invasion. The Ivan Bohun Military High School, one of 3 such establishments in Ukraine, is home to hundreds of teenagers. The lives of the cadets who stay at the facility for 2 years before they turn 18 are strictly choreographed. According to the deputy head, one of the recruits is a 16-year-old whose childhood dream was to join the school cadets stretch out in their air raid shelter. The Russian onslaught has already cost the lives of 66 cadets, all killed in action since February 24th, 2022, but one cadet seems undeterred by the losses. I am not going to sit and watch it all from home, he insists. 20 Sri Lanka Total chaos. Monkey blamed for nationwide power cut in Sri Lanka. Energy minister says monkey came into contact with grid transformer causing hours-long outage and sweltering heat. RAWSEP View Musk could be regarded as a useful monkey able